and so I wanted to bring you along to our RKS Guitars. This is Paul Janowski, who knows more about what goes on in this factory than I ever do. I'm just the guy that picks them up, plays them, and gives them in back and says, I think you need to change this or do this, or tell him it's fabulous. And there's a lot of fabulous stuff coming out of here. So Paul Janowski would take us on a tour of how the RKS guitar is built.
Thank you, Dave. That's very kind of you. Hi, I'm Paul. I run the factory here at RKS Guitars. We start everything with raw wood here and turn it all into beautiful guitars. So here we are in the wood glue-up area. What we do is take this beautiful wood that we showed you before. We start with swamp ash, maple, alder, ebony, mahogany, and assorted other woods, and we turn it into great guitars. So we start with raw wood. We cut and glue blanks into various sizes for the different parts we make, and then we cut it on our CNC. This right here is a Bubinga top base body that's just been glued up. The unique thing about this, besides for the design, is it's cored out. The inside of the top and the back of this base is hollow. Shaves about 1.5 pounds of wood off of it and makes an awesome tone. You can see what that looks like after it's been glued up. This was a prototype to check our coring thickness, and you can see that that inside is all hollowed out. Now, these are parts for our wave necks, which is our entry-level guitar and our most popular guitar. After we've cut the maple, we glue it up into this 3-piece blank, so what we've ended up with is essentially a quarter sawn neck out of one piece. Makes a very sturdy and strong guitar.
That's how you do that.
That's how we do that.
Ah. So Paul had mentioned a thing called a CNC machine, and we are in that vicinity right now, actually by the machine. Paul, why don't you explain how this thing carves out these necks for the guitars?
Sure, Dave. All of our geometry starts out as a CAD file. So we've designed all the parts in 3 dimensions, and we import it into our SurfCam software, which we use to define how all the cutters are going to cut the different parts of whatever part it is, whether it's a body, a neck, or a core. And what this program does is it translates it into the X, Y, and Z movements of the CNC machine, which is what you see up here on the screen. So we've taken our design geometry, turned it into what we call a tool path, and then sent it to the machine for cutting. Now those blanks that I showed being glued up before, this has been done on the first side for a wave neck, and it cuts the geometry for the headstock and the truss rod and whatever other geometry is on the front side of the neck. And then we put these back on the machine and cut the back side. So that's what this is going to end up looking at when it's finished. Right now we've got 10 wave neck blanks loaded onto the machine, and I'll start that up right now and you can see what it does.
So we've come from the cutting the necks out at the CNC machine over to a very important part of a guitar, the fingerboard. Can be ebony, rosewood, and we make all those parts here. And Paul, let's explain to everybody how all this stuff goes together.
All right, Dave. Unlike a lot of companies, we make all of our own parts. So we've made the fingerboard, which we start in this case with a blank of rosewood. We've CNC'd it on 2 sides, put some dot inlays on it. You've already seen that we've made our neck blank, and next step is to marry those 2 into one part. So we take the blank fingerboard, we do a radius and a fret slot. So this happens to be a ebony fingerboard with our RKS inlays on it. Then that gets glued onto this neck blank and sits overnight so that it's bonded permanently. This has also got a 2-way truss rod in it.
Cool. Very nice.
After the neck is cured, it goes over to sanding, fretting, and on into paint.
So let's get a maybe a little explanation on how the frets go into this fingerboard, because it's extremely important, because it's going to give us our intonation on the guitar, and we do not want that not right.
Yeah, that's right, Dave. So after our fingerboard is finally prepped, we sand these up to 1000 grit and we buff them, and then we install the frets. So a fret is simply a piece of wire that's got a tang on the bottom of it. They come in different configurations. Different players like different styles.
Yeah.
We place the fret into the fret slot, gently seat the ends, and press it in place using an arbor press. So once this entire neck is fretted, we mask the top surface off, and then it's ready for final sanding and paint.
So we're standing outside the room where all bad employees get put. No, actually, seriously, this is where they do a lot of the finishing and painting, and take this neck to the next process. So why don't you walk us through that, Paul?
Great. So this wave neck has been sanded up to 220 grit. It's been hand sanded, and it's ready for paint. The first step that we do is put an ultraviolet curing sealer on it. It's 100% solids material, so there's no emissions that go into the atmosphere. Very friendly to the environment. It's very hard, and it treats our neck as our first step. Here's that material. It's just like a jelly. You put it on with a sponge, wipe it on the neck, hang it up in our UV cure oven, and 3 minutes later, it's ready for scuff sand and satin paint. All the paint is applied in our spray room. Now this is the spray room where we spray all the paint. This whole spray area is about 800 square feet, made for throughput of a lot of parts. Now here's a wave neck with its final satin coat on it. So this part is ready for its final fret dressing, level crown and polish, and final assembly.
Nice. Smooth.
Like a baby's bottom.
Like a baby's bottom. So we are now at the station where things sort of get a little more completed as far as the neck goes, and I think Paul should explain to you what happens at this particular juncture.
All right, Dave.
Go ahead.
So once each neck has its final paint coat on it, it's still got the masking tape on it. So what first thing we do is we remove the masking tape, we dress the edges, put an angle on the edges of the frets, and then we do what's called a level crown and polish. So this is a neck that's completely finished. We've done a complete level. We put the crown back in the frets, and then we polished it again up to 1000 grit, and then we buffed it. So that makes these frets smooth and shiny and slick.
It's pretty fretboard.
Beautiful Macassar ebony with RKS inlays.
What is this wood?
Macassar ebony, comes from Africa.
Really?
What Oscar's doing right now is the final buff on this beautiful ash A-base body. When they come out of paint, they look pretty, but they've still got orange peel and different surface imperfections in them. So what we do first is sand them with a block and 600, 800, and 1000 grit sandpaper, and then Oscar does his magic on the buffing wheels. So it looks beautiful.
So we're in the room where it all comes together and turns into a guitar. And you'll, as you can hear, of course, the people who work here are not just assemblymen. They actually play. That's why our instruments are so good.
That's right, Dave.
Paul, explain what's going on here.
So after we've done all that work out in the factory, we made sawdust out of big logs and painted them and done our level crown and polish. This is what's called a pre-assembled sunburst guitar. So it's got its solid wood back on it. This one happens to be a mahogany core, which is new for us.
Ah.
You can see where all of the cavities for the pickups, volume pot, tone pot, selector switch, and all the pickups is inside here. And what Russ is playing is another version of this same guitar.
Yeah, this is pretty much fun.
Beautiful
Actually, this
sunburst on it.
This is actually a Dave model.
And quite beautiful.
It is.
Quite beautiful.
It is.
It's got
very
its
beautiful.
pick guard installed on it. It's ready to go.
Out of shop, ready to rock.